Admiral Crick stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Council warship and watched the blue planet below. Earth, the humans called it. Such a small world, such a young species. The Voreth Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds, and this one would be no different. "They have sent another message," said Commander Yeth. The tall, gray-skinned officer held a data pad in his four-fingered hand. "They ask again for peaceful negotiations." Crix made a sound of disgust. "They beg because they are weak. The humans have no fleet, no planetary shields. Their weapons are primitive. They should accept their fate and submit to Voreth rule." "The Council has approved the invasion," Yeth said. "We can begin whenever you command." Crix looked at the planet one more time. The Voreth had studied humans for 3 of their years. They were a curious species. They fought among themselves constantly. They had wars over land, over resources, over ideas. They were divided into hundreds of different groups that could not agree on anything. This was why the Voreth High Command had chosen Earth as their next target. A divided enemy was an easy enemy. The Voreth would land their forces, crush any resistance, and add another world to their empire. Simple. "Begin the invasion," Crix ordered. The Voreth fleet moved into position. 200 warships, 50,000 ground troops, more than enough to conquer a primitive world like Earth. The first wave of dropships launched from the fleet and descended toward the planet. Crix watched them go with satisfaction. By this time tomorrow, Earth would belong to the Voreth Empire. He was wrong. The dropships landed in a region the humans called the Great Plains. It was flat and open, perfect for establishing a forward base. The Voreth soldiers poured out of their ships and began setting up defensive positions. For the first hour, nothing happened. The land was empty. No human forces appeared. The Voreth commanders thought the humans were too afraid to fight. Then the attacks began. It started small. A supply convoy was hit by an explosion. 3 vehicles destroyed, 12 soldiers dead. The attackers vanished before the Voreth could respond. An hour later, a patrol went silent. When reinforcements arrived, they found the patrol dead. No enemy bodies, no signs of a battle, just dead Voreth soldiers. By nightfall, the Voreth had lost over 200 soldiers. They had not seen a single human attacker. "This is not possible," said Ground Commander Threx. He was a veteran of 30 campaigns. He had never seen anything like this. "Where are they? Our sensors show nothing." "The humans are using some kind of stealth technology," one of his officers suggested. "They have no such technology," Threx said. "Our intelligence reports are clear. The humans have nothing that can hide from our sensors." But something was hiding from their sensors. Something was killing their soldiers, and Threx had no idea what it was. The answer came the next morning. A forward observation post reported contact with human forces. Before the transmission ended, the observers managed to send a single image. Threx stared at the image. It showed a small group of humans, maybe 10 or 12. They wore clothing that matched the colors of the grass and dirt around them. They carried weapons, but what caught Threx's attention was how they moved. The humans were not charging. They were not standing in formation. They were spread out, moving together but separately, like they were parts of a single creature. Some moved while others watched. Some watched while others prepared to attack. "What are they doing?" Threx asked. His science officer studied the image. "I believe they are using coordinated hunting tactics, Commander, similar to what we have observed in pack predators on other worlds." "Pack predators?" Threx did not understand. "The humans are not predators, they are soft. They have no claws, no natural weapons." "Their biology suggests otherwise," the science officer said. "Humans evolved as persistent hunters. They would chase prey for hours or days until it collapsed from exhaustion. They also hunted in groups, using coordination and communication to bring down animals much larger than themselves." Threx felt a chill run through his body. The Voreth were herbivores. They had evolved on a world without predators. Their ancestors had survived by running from danger, not by hunting. The humans were different. The humans were predators. And now the predators were hunting the Voreth. Over the next 3 days, the situation grew worse. The humans struck everywhere at once. They attacked supply lines, communications posts, command centers. They never attacked in large numbers. Always small groups, always coordinated, always deadly. The Voreth tried to fight back. They sent out patrols to find and destroy the human forces. The patrols rarely returned. When they did, they reported the same thing. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They would appear, attack, and vanish before the Voreth could respond. "We need to change our tactics," Threx told Admiral Crix in his daily report. "The humans are not fighting like any enemy we have faced before. They do not engage in direct battle. They strike from hiding and retreat before we can respond. Our standard military doctrine is not working." "Then find a doctrine that does work," Crix snapped. "You have 50,000 soldiers. The humans have, what, a few hundred, a few thousand at most. This should not be a challenge." "With respect, Admiral, the numbers are not the problem. The humans are using a form of warfare we have never encountered. They call it guerrilla tactics. Our soldiers are trained to fight armies. These humans are not an army. They are hunters." Crix was silent for a long moment. "What do you recommend?" "I recommend we request support from the Council. We need experts who can help us understand how to fight this kind of enemy." "Absolutely not," Crix said. "The Voreth Empire does not ask for help from the Council. We will handle this ourselves." It was a decision he would come to regret. The Galactic Council was an alliance of 12 species that had agreed to share knowledge and resources for mutual benefit. The Voreth were the most powerful member, but they were not the only ones watching the invasion of Earth with interest. High Arbiter Selene of the Kyrian Collective studied the reports from Earth with growing concern. The Kyrians were an old species, known for their wisdom and their ability to see patterns that others missed. What Selene saw in the reports troubled her deeply. "The humans are adapting," she told the Council during an emergency session. "They are learning the Voreth tactics and developing counters faster than any species we have recorded." "They are primitives," said Ambassador Vorx, the Voreth representative. "They have no space travel, no advanced weapons. They will fall." "Perhaps," Selene said, "but I have been studying their history. Do you know what I found?" Vorx made a dismissive gesture. "I care nothing for their history." "You should," Selene said. "Their history is a record of war. They have been fighting each other for thousands of years. They have developed countless methods of killing, and they are very, very good at it." "They are good at killing each other," Vorx said. "We are not them. We are superior." Selene sighed. "Have you heard of something called the Mongol Empire?" Vorx had not. Selene explained. 800 years ago, by Earth time, a human named Genghis Khan united the scattered tribes of the Mongolian steppes. Within a few decades, he and his descendants conquered the largest contiguous land empire in human history. "How did they do it?" Selene asked. "They were outnumbered by their enemies. They had no technological advantages, but they won because they understood something their enemies did not. War is not about strength. War is about coordination." She brought up images on the Council's display. The Mongols fought as a unit. Every rider knew his place. Every commander understood the overall strategy. They used scouts and messengers to maintain communication across vast distances, and they hunted their enemies like wolves hunt prey. "The Voreth have coordination," Vorx protested. "Our armies are disciplined." "Your armies are organized," Selene corrected. "That is not the same thing. Organization is following orders. Coordination is thinking together. The humans do not need orders. They anticipate. They adapt. They work together instinctively because they evolved to hunt as a pack." On Earth, the situation was growing more desperate for the Vorath. Commander Threx had lost another 1,000 soldiers in the past week. The humans were getting bolder. Their attacks were more frequent, more devastating, and now something new had appeared. The different human groups were working together. When the invasion began, the humans had been divided. Different nations, different languages, different goals. The Vorath had expected them to fight separately, to be easy to defeat one at a time. Instead, they had united. Within days of the first landing, human governments had set aside their differences and formed a single military command. Soldiers from dozens of nations were now fighting side by side, sharing tactics and intelligence. They are communicating in ways we cannot intercept, Threx's intelligence officer reported. They use runners, hand signals, coded messages. They change their codes every few hours. Our analysts cannot keep up. How is this possible? Threx demanded. They have been at war with each other for their entire history. How can they suddenly work together? The science officer had an answer. Because they have been at war for their entire history, Commander. They have practiced this. Every generation of humans has learned to fight, to coordinate, to adapt. It is in their nature. Threx received another report. A Vorath supply depot had been destroyed, not by a raid, but by a coordinated assault involving human forces from at least 5 different nations. They had attacked from multiple directions at the same time, overwhelming the defenders before they could respond. They are learning our weaknesses, the intelligence officer said. They know our patrol schedules, our communication frequencies, our supply routes. Someone is gathering this information and sharing it with all the human forces. Find out who, Threx ordered. Find them and eliminate them. But finding a human in this war was like finding a single blade of grass in a field. The humans could be anyone. They looked like farmers, like refugees, like children. They hid in plain sight, watching, reporting, and then vanishing when the Vorath came looking for them. The humans had a word for this kind of warfare. They called it resistance, and they had been doing it for thousands of years. On the 3rd week of the invasion, the humans demonstrated something that changed everything. A Vorath battalion, 500 soldiers, moved through a narrow valley. They were hunting a human force that had been attacking their supply lines. Intelligence said the humans had fewer than 50 fighters. The battalion never reached its destination. The first sign of trouble was the scouts going silent. Then the forward units came under fire from the hills on both sides of the valley. The battalion commander ordered his troops to advance and overwhelm the attackers. That was when the trap closed. Explosions blocked the path ahead. More explosions blocked the path behind. The Vorath were trapped in the valley with nowhere to go, and from the hills the humans kept firing. It was not random fire. It was coordinated. Different groups targeted different parts of the Vorath formation. Officers were killed first, then heavy weapons crews, then communications operators. The humans were systematically dismantling the battalion's ability to fight. After 2 hours it was over. 437 Vorath soldiers were dead. The rest had surrendered. The humans lost 11 fighters. When Commander Threx heard the report, he felt something he had never felt before in his military career. Fear. They lured us in, he said quietly. They made us think they were weak, that they were running, and then they destroyed an entire battalion. The tactics they used, his science officer said, they are similar to hunting techniques used by predators on their world. They isolated their prey, blocked escape routes, and attacked from multiple directions. They did not fight us. They hunted us. Threx contacted Admiral Crix immediately. We are losing, he said bluntly. The humans are not fighting a war. They are conducting a hunt, and we are the prey. Crix was silent for a long moment. What do you recommend? We need to withdraw and reassess. Our current tactics are not working. Every day we stay here, we lose more soldiers. The humans are learning faster than we are adapting. A withdrawal would be seen as a defeat, Crix said. A defeat would be a defeat, Threx replied. And if we stay here, we will be defeated. I have studied human history, Admiral. They have faced invasions before. They have faced enemies with superior numbers, superior weapons, superior technology, and they have won. Not because they were stronger, but because they were better at working together. Crix made his decision. He ordered a full withdrawal of Vorath forces from Earth. It was too late. The humans did not let the Vorath withdraw peacefully. As the alien forces began pulling back to their landing zones, human fighters attacked with renewed intensity. They struck at retreating columns, at supply convoys, at anything that moved. It was not enough to let the invaders leave. They wanted to make sure the invaders remembered why they were leaving. Commander Threx lost another 2,000 soldiers during the withdrawal. By the time the last Vorath dropship lifted off from Earth, he had less than half the force he had started with. This is not possible, Admiral Crix said when Threx reported to him in person. We had superior numbers, superior weapons, superior technology. How did we lose? We did not lose because of numbers or weapons, Threx said. We lost because we did not understand what we were fighting. The humans are not like any species we have conquered before. They are predators. They evolved to hunt in groups, to coordinate, to adapt. War is in their blood. Crix did not want to hear this. The Vorath have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have defeated species far more advanced than these humans. Have we? Threx asked. Think about it, Admiral. Every species we have conquered was either primitive and disorganized or advanced and unwilling to fight. The primitives could not resist us. The advanced species valued peace and surrendered rather than face destruction. The humans are different. They are primitive, yes, but they are not disorganized, and they are very willing to fight. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to discuss the Vorath defeat. Representatives from all 12 member species attended. The mood was tense. This is unprecedented, said High Arbiter Selene. In 3 centuries of galactic expansion, no primitive species has ever repelled an invasion by a council member. The humans have changed everything. They got lucky, Ambassador Vorx insisted. The Vorath underestimated them. That will not happen again. It was not luck, said Ambassador Thrin of the Kellari Union. The Kellari were known for their analytical minds. I have studied the tactical data from the invasion. The humans displayed a level of coordination that exceeds anything we have seen from a species at their technological level. They are natural warriors. All species fight, Vorx said. It is a matter of survival. No, Thrin said. Most species run or hide when threatened. Fight or flight as the humans call it, but humans do not simply fight. They coordinate, they plan, they sacrifice for the group. They are pack hunters and they have been practicing their skills on each other for 10,000 years. Selene nodded. Ambassador Thrin is correct. The humans have something that most species lack, a deep instinct for group combat. They can work together in ways that we cannot replicate. They do not need to be told what to do. They know. The council debated for hours. Some wanted to send a larger force to crush the humans once and for all. Others argued that the cost would be too high. In the end, they reached a surprising decision. They would contact the humans and offer them a place in the Galactic Council. This is madness, Vorx protested. They are primitives, they have no space travel, they cannot contribute to the council. They have something more valuable than technology, Selene replied. They have the ability to fight. The council has faced many threats over the centuries. The swarm, the machine mind, the dark fleet. Each time we have barely survived because our members do not know how to wage war. The humans do. You want to use them as soldiers, Vorx said, his voice full of disgust. I want to learn from them, Selene said. And I want them to learn from us. They are clearly intelligent. They are clearly capable. If we bring them into the council, we gain an ally. If we continue to fight them, we gain an enemy that we may not be able to defeat. The vote was close, but Seleni's faction won. A diplomatic ship was sent to Earth. The humans were suspicious at first. They had just fought off an alien invasion. They had no reason to trust another alien ship, but they agreed to talk. High Arbiter Selene represented the council at the negotiations. She met with a group of human leaders in a neutral location, a small island in the middle of an ocean, chosen because it was far from any military installations. "I want to understand something," Selene said during one of the sessions. "Your species was divided before the invasion. You had been fighting among yourselves for centuries. How did you unite so quickly?" One of the human leaders, a woman named General Chen, smiled. "We have a saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. When the Voreth attacked, our differences did not matter anymore. We had a common enemy, so we became a common force." "But the coordination," Selene pressed. "Your forces worked together seamlessly, even though they came from different nations with different languages and different military traditions. How is that possible?" "Practice," said another leader, General Morrison. "We have been fighting together and against each other for thousands of years. We have learned how to work together even when we do not speak the same language. Hand signals, common tactics, shared goals. It is instinct now." Selene thought about this. "Your species is remarkable. Most intelligent species become less violent as they advance. They develop peaceful means of resolving conflicts, but you have not." "We have tried," General Chen said. "We have institutions for peace, international laws, treaties, but when those fail, we fight. It is who we are." "It may be who you need to be," Selene said. "The galaxy is not as peaceful as we would like to believe. There are threats out there that the Council has barely survived. We need species who know how to fight. We need you." The negotiations continued for months. The humans had many questions about the galaxy, about the Council, about the threats that Selene had mentioned. They were cautious, careful. They did not trust easily. But in the end, they agreed to join. The terms were simple. The Council would share technology with Earth. In return, Earth would provide military advisors to help the Council develop better defense strategies. The humans would teach the galaxy how to fight. It was an arrangement that would change galactic history. 50 years passed. In that time, humanity spread across the stars. With Council technology, they built ships that could cross light years in days. They established colonies on dozens of worlds. They became one of the fastest-growing species in the galaxy. But their greatest contribution was not colonization, it was war. Human military advisors transformed the Council's defense forces. They introduced concepts that no other species had ever considered: combined arms tactics, special operations, psychological warfare, guerrilla resistance. They taught the other species how to think like predators instead of prey. The results were dramatic. When the swarm returned, the Council was ready. Instead of fleeing or negotiating, they fought. Human-designed tactics allowed smaller forces to defeat larger ones. Coordinated strikes destroyed swarm hives before they could spread. For the first time in history, the swarm was pushed back. When the machine mind launched another expansion, human cyber warriors were waiting. They had developed countermeasures based on their own experience with artificial intelligence. The machine mind found itself fighting an enemy that could match its strategic thinking and surpass its adaptability. The galaxy began to change. Species that had once been passive and defensive learned to stand and fight. The Council military became a force to be respected, not just feared. And at the center of it all were the humans. Admiral Sarah Chen, granddaughter of the famous General Chen who had helped negotiate Earth's entry into the Council, commanded the first combined fleet. It was the most powerful military force in galactic history, comprising ships and soldiers from dozens of species. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Earth vessel Persistence, and studied the tactical display. A new threat had emerged, the Collective, a species from beyond the galaxy's edge. They had conquered entire star systems in their path and showed no interest in negotiation. "The Collective fleet is entering the system," her tactical officer reported. 300 capital ships, estimated 12 million soldiers. Chen nodded. Her own force was smaller, 150 ships, 4 million soldiers. By traditional galactic warfare standards, she should retreat and wait for reinforcements. But Chen was not thinking about traditional warfare. She was thinking about the hunt. "Begin Phase 1, she ordered. The fleet split into dozens of smaller groups and scattered. To the Collective commanders, it looked like the Council forces were fleeing in panic. They pressed forward, eager to destroy the enemy while they were disorganized. That was exactly what Chen wanted. The scattered Council groups were not fleeing. They were repositioning. Each group knew its role, its target, its timing. They did not need orders. They had trained for this. They thought as one. When the Collective fleet was deep in the system, spread out as they chased what they thought was a broken enemy, Chen gave the signal. "Phase 2, execute." The Council groups struck from every direction at once. They did not attack the main body of the Collective fleet. Instead, they targeted specific points: command ships, communication relays, supply vessels. They were not trying to destroy the enemy. They were trying to blind them. The Collective commanders found themselves cut off from their fleet. Ships that should have been supporting each other were suddenly alone, unable to coordinate. The organized fleet became a confused mass of individual vessels. "Phase 3, Chen said. The Council forces reformed into a single wedge and drove straight through the center of the Collective formation. They did not stop to engage enemy ships. They pushed through, leaving devastation in their wake. The Collective tried to respond, but their chain of command was broken. Different ships pursued different strategies. Some attacked, some defended, some retreated. Without coordination, they were easy targets. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Collective fleet was destroyed. 240 ships lost, the rest in full retreat. The Council had lost 32 ships. It was the most one-sided victory in galactic military history. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. Species that had lived in fear of the Collective celebrated. The Council's prestige soared, and everywhere people talked about the humans. "They fight like nothing we have ever seen," said the Kalari ambassador in a council address. "They do not simply attack. They coordinate, they plan, they adapt. They move as one, even when separated by vast distances. It is as if they share a single mind." The Kyrian High Arbiter, a successor to Selene who had died decades ago, nodded. "They do not share a mind. They share something deeper: instinct. The instinct of the pack. The instinct of the hunt. It is what makes them so dangerous to their enemies and so valuable to their friends." Ambassador Vorks, son of the Vorath who had opposed human membership, spoke reluctantly. "My father was wrong about them. We all were. We thought they were primitives. We thought their constant warfare was a weakness. We did not understand that it was their greatest strength." Admiral Chen was invited to address the Council. She stood before representatives of dozens of species, her uniform bearing medals from a dozen campaigns. "You ask how we do it," she said. "How we coordinate, how we fight as one. The answer is simple: we trust each other. When a human soldier goes into battle, they know that their comrades will be there. They know that everyone has a role and everyone will do their job. We do not fight alone. We never fight alone." She paused. "This is what we offer the Council. Not just tactics, not just weapons, but a way of thinking. The galaxy is dangerous. There will always be threats. But if we stand together, if we trust each other, if we fight as one, we can face anything." The Council chambers erupted in applause. For the first time in its history, the Galactic Council understood what it meant to be a pack. 100 years after the invasion of Earth, the galaxy was a very different place. The Galactic Council had grown from 12 species to 37. Humanity's example had shown that even primitive species could have value, and the Council had begun reaching out to younger civilizations instead of ignoring them. The result was a stronger, more diverse alliance. The threats that had once terrorized the galaxy were diminished. The swarm had been pushed back to a single system, contained by Council forces. The machine mind had been destroyed, its central processors infected by human-designed viruses that turned its own logic against it. The collective had negotiated peace after 3 more devastating defeats. And humanity had changed as well. Earth was now the center of the Council's military academy. Young soldiers from every species came there to learn the art of coordinated warfare. They studied human history, human tactics, human psychology. They learned what it meant to fight as a pack. But humans had learned too. Contact with other species had taught them that there were ways to resolve conflicts without violence. Human diplomats were as respected as human warriors. Human scientists contributed to advances in medicine, energy, and transportation. Humanity had become more than just fighters. Yet they never forgot how to fight. That was the lesson they taught the galaxy. Peace is precious, but it must be defended. On the anniversary of the invasion, a ceremony was held on Earth. Representatives from every Council species attended. They gathered on the Great Plains, where the first Vorath soldiers had landed a century ago. A monument stood there now, a towering structure of metal and stone that commemorated both the humans who had died defending their world and the Vorath soldiers who had fallen in the invasion. It was a reminder that war has costs on all sides. Grand Admiral James Morrison, descendant of one of the original resistance leaders, gave the keynote address. He was old now, his hair white and his face lined, but his voice was still strong. 100 years ago, my ancestors stood on this ground and faced an enemy they could not hope to defeat. The Vorath had ships that could cross the stars. They had weapons that could level cities. They had numbers that seemed endless. He paused, looking out at the crowd. But my ancestors had something the Vorath did not understand. They had each other. They had a bond that goes deeper than technology, deeper than weapons, deeper than anything that can be built or bought. They had the instinct of the pack. Humans evolved as hunters. For thousands of generations, our survival depended on our ability to work together. A single human is weak. We have no claws, no fangs, no armor. But a group of humans working together can accomplish anything. We learn to communicate with a glance, to anticipate each other's movements, to trust each other absolutely. He gestured to the aliens in the audience. When we first met you, you thought we were primitive. You thought our constant warfare was a sign of weakness, but war is not our weakness. It is the fire that forged us. Every conflict in human history taught us something new about coordination, about adaptation, about the power of the pack. Now you have learned from us, and we have learned from you. The galaxy is safer because we stand together, not as separate species pursuing separate goals, but as one pack facing the darkness. Ambassador Keth, the current Vorath representative, stepped forward. His species had changed over the past century. They had learned humility from their defeat on Earth and respect from their alliance with humanity. My ancestors made a grave error 100 years ago, Keth said. They saw humans as prey. They did not understand that humans were the greatest predators in the galaxy, not because of strength or technology, but because of something we could not see, the bond between them. The Vorath have learned from that mistake. We have learned that true strength comes not from conquest, but from cooperation. We are honored to stand beside humanity now, as allies and as friends. The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence, followed by a display of unity. Soldiers from every council species standing together, shoulder to shoulder, a living demonstration of the pact that humanity had helped create. As the sun set over the Great Plains, Admiral Morrison stood alone at the monument. He thought about his ancestors, the men and women who had fought and died on this ground. They could never have imagined what their resistance would lead to: a galactic alliance, peace among the stars, humanity's place among the great species of the galaxy. A young Voreth officer approached him. "Admiral, may I ask you something?" Morrison nodded. "Of course." "How did you know? How did your ancestors know they could win against us? We had every advantage." Morrison smiled. "They did not know. No one ever knows if they will win a fight. But they knew one thing for certain: they would not give up. They would not surrender. They would keep fighting, keep adapting, keep working together until they won or until there was no one left to fight." He looked up at the stars, now beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "That is what it means to be human. We do not fight because we know we will win. We fight because giving up is not in our nature. We are pack hunters. We face our enemies together, and together we are unstoppable." The Vorath officer considered this. "It is a remarkable trait." "It is who we are," Morrison said. "And now it is who you are too, all of you, the whole council. You have learned to fight as a pack. You have learned that cooperation is stronger than conquest. That is humanity's gift to the galaxy." He walked toward the lights of the celebration in the distance, where humans and aliens mingled as friends and allies. The invasion had ended a century ago, but its consequences would last forever. Galactic war strategy had changed when humans demonstrated coordinated pack hunting, but more than strategy had changed. The galaxy itself had been transformed. Where once there had been isolation and fear, now there was unity and strength. The predators had become protectors, the hunters had become teachers, and the pack had grown to include the stars. Humanity, it turned out, had been preparing for this moment all along. Every war they had fought, every conflict they had survived, had been practice for this. The moment when they would take their place among the great species of the galaxy and show them what it truly meant to fight together. In the end, the Vorath had been right about one thing: humans were dangerous, but they were not dangerous because they were violent or primitive. They were dangerous because when they fought as one. And that made all the difference.